Today I'm going to show you how to use the buffer subroutine to stack plot multiple spectra. Start by opening up a single file, sample 1. We'll use the toolbar at the top to Fourier transform, auto phase, auto fit baseline, and then we will use the right click menu to enter the buffer subroutine. Notice that we could also just type the two-letter command BU, which I'll do in the future. Enter the buffer subroutine. Notice in the top right-hand corner it tells us what subroutine we're in. Under the new edit pull-down menu, this is the buffer subroutine pull-down menu now, we can click to add the current spectrum as the next buffer. And we do that and it shows up. Watch as I pass through it with the mouse. You notice that it flashes. One thing you can do, you can grab it and move it wherever you want. You can try to equally space it, as you do this. You can also, when it's flashing, you can right click to bring up a buffer properties. And what I like to set these so that they're equally spaced apart. So I'll put in exactly 0.2. Let's change the color. We'll make this one green, and we'll put in sample 001. And we now have a carbon copy of the spectrum that's at the bottom. Let's pull in another spectrum. File open. Sample number 2. We will use the toolbar, Fourier transform, auto phase, auto fit baseline. We can use the buffer subroutine again. Notice the other one's still there. We can type the letter A to add the next one. Grab it with the mouse and move it where we want it. Right click. Oh, exactly 0.4. That was a little bit lucky. Change the color of it so you can see what we're doing here. This is sample 002. And now we have 3 spectra on the screen. The top one is a carbon copy of the bottom one. So let's get out of the buffer subroutine one last time. Open the next one, sample 3, and we will do the same thing. Fourier transform, phase, fit baseline, buffer mode, add the spectrum, move it up, right click on it. We're going to make it 0.6. We'll change the color to pink and put in sample 003. Now there's only one thing that's strange about this, that is you can't really get rid of the spectrum on the bottom. So right now the spectrum on the bottom is a carbon copy of the spectrum on the very top. So realistically we don't need this one. So let's delete that. If it's the last spectrum that you move the mouse through, it's activated. So you can just type the letter D for delete and it will delete it. So now we have sample 2, sample 1, and of course sample 3 is at the bottom. At the top, I'm going to check this. Notice now it has a checkbox to display the buffers outside of the buffer subroutine. Recall earlier when we got out of the buffer subroutine, the buffer disappeared. Well, now when we get out of the buffer subroutine, they stay on the screen, and now we can manipulate these the same way we could if it was just a single spectrum on the screen. Now one thing I want you to be aware of is, let's say that we're zoomed into a region, we're kind of looking at it, and then we decide, oh, let's put in the 4th spectrum. So we come in here, we open the next file, we Fourier transform, phase, fit baseline, and we add, whoops, go into buffer mode, add the next one, right click on it. I think we're up to 0.8, and we'll change the color. Let's change it to black. Oh, I guess 0.6. Now you're going to see that the buffer subroutine does exactly what you tell it to do. Let's show the full spectrum. So notice, because we were zoomed in when we added that last buffer, all we added was a zoomed region for that, which is kind of nice sometimes. Sometimes you just want to look at a certain region. So it's not a bad thing, it's just a different thing. If we decide, oh, I really wanted to add a 4th spectrum and I wanted to add the whole thing, remember we go into buffer mode, have the mouse just move through it so it flashes, and you can type the letter D for delete, actually probably under the pull-down menu, delete current buffer. And by current buffer, it means the last one that you move the mouse through. Let's actually move it through this one. See, this is a little bit hard because in order to get to the pull-down menus after passing through this one, we have to pass through that one. See how that one flashed even though we're way out over here? So one thing that you can do is go through there and go around and delete that buffer then. Let's move this one down to 0.4. And that's kind of the buffer subroutine in a nutshell. Thanks.